Good morning, Westeros!
And welcome to our Morning Throners podcast.
I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're the fucking Morning Throners. And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We are your Morning Throners, and we got Jamie 3 on deck. Gentlemen.
Are there any other ones? Because, I mean, you've been saying for a while now, but they're their favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. But, I mean, I think we're the only.
Nah,
You'd be surprised.
We can't be the only, but even if we were the only,
you're not
we
catching what I'm putting down here, buddy.
The only that matters.
I'm saying we are the only one. The definitive, the final,
We're the only one that matters.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So,
That's all.
how are you guys doing?
Pretty good. Good chapter. Leaves us on a kind of a cliffhanger. I kind of just want to get Kyle's opinion of that right off the bat, just so that we don't have to tiptoe around anything. Like what's going on here at the end, or give us the one sentence synopsis, and then your thoughts, and let us know what you're thinking about the ending.
Yeah.
I mean, so like, there's more horse riding. They get ambushed. They fight for a while. Jaime and Brienne have a fight. They get surrounded by the brave companions.
Yep. Immediately
Immediately recognized. Pretty much end up as prisoners at the end.
Yep. What's going on at the very end?
At the very end, Jaime is. I'm just trying to think of how to say it without giving predictions early.
No, that's what we want. We want the prediction early. That way, Jeff and I know what you're.
Oh, you
thinking
want
about
the
this.
prediction? I mean, I think they're about to chop off a hand here, right? Like, it seems like they're about to do some serious damage to him.
Yeah, we don't normally do this, jump to the end right away, but the reason I want to say it is because the ending is a little bit ambiguous, right? He says, like,
You
they
act
mean to
like the
scare
other
me.
chapters don't have this end.
I don't know. Like, I feel like this one's pretty ambiguous.
Nelson was just afraid of giving too much info.
So, well, it's almost like he would be dead if not for the last line of "and he screamed." If it was just
Well,
the
they weren't
"and the
gonna
rat
kill
was
him
coming
anyway.
down." Well, again, it's like that's where I'm saying, like, without the Jaime scream line, I think that like, if he would have stopped it a sentence shorter, that'd be something we'd be discussing right now. I think.
Maybe you'd be having that conversation. I don't think he would. I don't think that Vargo Hoat was just going to kill this dude out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
Because they're not even at Harrenhal. Like,
Yeah,
You're right. Yeah, let's get into the beginning. Where are they?
They are riding along the destruction of the King's Road.
Well, they've actually crossed the King's Road.
Well, it says they've been walking on both sides of it.
I'll pull up a picture here quick. So this is pretty much Jaime's path up to this point, and the reason that I pull it up now is because I thought the same thing that Jeff was saying, that they were riding along the King's Road for some amount of time. But if you basically say the last chapter was pretty much at the end of the Kneeling Man, and this chapter, like you guys are saying, they ride through Maidenpool and end up going towards Duskendale. If you just draw a straight line between them, they're probably just walking across the King's Road.
They were on one side of it, there was destruction. Now they're on the other side, and there's still destruction.
Exactly. And he said for 2 days ride on either side, meaning that for the 2 days before they got there and for 2 days after they crossed it, it was just nothing but burn. Which, again, like we've seen some of this in the Arya chapters, like the Riverlands, like this area of the map is just fucked up beyond belief right now.
scorched.
Yeah.
But they're getting to some green parts towards the end.
Yep. So they go through Maidenpool, we get a little bit of that, and then like one of you guys was saying, they realize that they're going towards Duskendale. So yeah, just to mention that before we go, he wants to go the whole way around. Like, is that Cleos' thought here? Like this isn't.
It
like
can't be around that forest, though. Like you're not gonna walk around Crackjaw Point.
I guess he's thinking more just towards Rook's Rest, I'm thinking. But yeah, King's Landing is just right down south of there. So,
Which, I mean, Cleos might have been right. I don't know if his path would have saved his life.
True, yeah.
Whether or not, but
Yeah.
like.
Hindsight's 20/20, and he's got a mush skull, so he's not looking at shit.
Yeah. All right, so that's the map. That's good.
All right, so they passing by Maidenpool. Maidenpool's deserted. The flag is still flying, but there's dead bodies in the pool, which is now a gray slop. I think the one thing to note about Maidenpool is that we've heard a bunch these two characters that they mentioned, and this is
Jonquil,
the origin.
Florian.
Jonquil and Florian.
The pool from which the town took its name, where legend said Florian the Fool had first glimpsed Jonquil bathing with her sisters, was so choked with rotting corpses that the water had turned into a murky gray-green soup. So this whole chapter is just—it's kind of fucked up. Like everything is like disgusting, and it's just real gritty. I feel like this chapter.
I mean, it's not pretty, that's for sure.
I mean, it's war, right?
Yeah.
This is your whole George point.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. This is a perfect time for you to say, well, George doesn't like
like war.
Jaime does start singing the song of Florian the Jonquil. Nelson, hit it.
6 maids there were in a spring-fed pool. That's all we got. And we hear that the name of this song is called 6 Maids in a Pool. So
that's all we need too if you're singing. So
yeah,
doing us all a favor.
Yeah. And Jamie's again just kind of like poking at Brienne, like he's fucking with her. Hey, and shy little maids they were too in the song, just like you, Brienne. And she's like, be quiet. And Cleos is like, yeah, shut up. Like we don't want to. Lord Mooton, the guy who's in charge of this, is sworn to the Tullys, who we just escaped from. We don't want to draw him out of his castle, and we just don't know if there's anyone in like the deserted ruins of this town.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially we've seen people hiding in ruins already, right? Like,
I mean, later in this chapter, they kind of get shot at by people behind a wall. I don't know if it's necessarily ruins, but yeah, like there could be people anywhere.
well, and like the whole Arya thing, like, weren't they? Didn't they go to some town that looked like trashed, and they?
It was a sacked town, but I don't know if there was like necessarily people hiding in the ruins. But yeah, there was people like occupying.
Well, I thought
them.
they like blew the whistle or something and made some call, and like people came out.
Oh yeah. The recent.
Nowhere.
I thought you were talking about like when she first got captured by the mountain. Yeah, recently when she was with Jack B. Lucky, Jack B. Lucky did like a toot 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 type deal on his horn, and people came out. The village. Yep.
I think it's a curious line when Cleos is like, "Hey, there may be enemies hiding," and Jamie's like, "Hers or ours?"
Yeah.
Because in a sense, like it could be different, but in a sense, it could be the same. Like it's not. They're not completely.
No. So what what happens if they come up on the mountain, right? Like
exactly.
Yeah,
like if it's
for
land,
sure.
he's
definite Brienne enemy.
Well,
Which
that's
is
what I'm
like
saying, and his luck changes then, like completely.
which is interesting
Like I'm
because
free.
later when he gets captured by the bloody mummers, he thinks that's what's happening for a little
for
bit
sure.
there. He's like,
Yeah.
"Cool, take these off. Like we're good."
Maybe it's
They're
a
like, "No, that's not
strange
what's happening."
callback to that line, right? He thinks it's
yeah.
But like if it was the Tully still, like maybe they caught up, or maybe Mooton is there.
Yeah.
Like if Mooton got word, he's probably gonna kill Brienne for doing this with Jamie, and he's taking Jamie back to River Run. So
Yeah, the only thing is I'm questioning is maybe not kill Brienne, maybe just send him both back. Yeah, maybe. I think it's a toss up.
They would
people
definitely
probably
kill
just kill her. Who cares?
She's under Catelyn though. Like the Tullys give a shit about her.
but
It depends on like how much word has spread. Like Jeff said last time, I think they just said like Jamie escaped. They didn't say like, oh, Catelyn set him free. So like if you like, I'm sworn to Lord like Lady Catelyn, that might still be like worth something. Yeah,
I got
Brienne, if Brienne just like
she's
jumped
complicit
him out of jail.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, wouldn't she have taken off his cuffs and all? I don't know. It's this whole weird situation, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
So we don't need to linger on that point.
Yeah, but when Jamie says that about the enemies, he says that like, oh, because I'm making noise because if enemies do come out, they might be hers, and I want to see if she can use that sword of hers. Is like what he says.
Yeah.
And she's like, shut the fuck up, or I'm gonna gag you.
Which I mean is foreshadowing, right, for the end of the chapter when he does get to see her use her sword.
Yes, and she used it pretty well.
Yeah,
a lot.
So anyway, I'm gonna gag her.
Yep.
Next thing they know,
he's like, I'll shut up if you unchain me. That's a fair trade. But she calls him wench. He calls her wench, and then we get again a little. This is a repeating thing between these two.
I'm not wench.
Brienne, my name's Brienne. Brienne. The audiobook guy says Brienne, and I know most people say Brienne, but it's like in my head.
Brienne, grow
just
up.
stuck.
It's Brienne.
It's in the audiobook a lot.
Kavan.
Yeah, let's not go down stupid names. Glow's off this podcast for good now.
Yeah, we actually kicked Glow off because he said Kavan. We made it seem like an amicable. What's that word?
Yeah, shut up.
Amicable.
Yeah, whatever. No one knows how to say that word.
Amicable.
Gosh, that's a Game of Thrones word.
So he starts fucking around with Brienne again, and he says, "Care for a bath. You're a maiden. There's the pool. I'll wash your back." So because this town is called Maiden Pool, right? And again, you have to think that has to be the name of this town has to be related to the Florian and Jonquil thing, right? Like that's a legend we've heard about how many times.
What are you talking about?
The town's called Maiden Pool.
Isn't that literally?
I think
what
he even
they said?
says that it's taken its name from the pool, but not that it's necessarily about Florian and Jonquil. But
maybe this is like
what are you
Car
talking
Stark's
about?
taking their name off of Carl's Hold of Stark, and people just started calling it Maiden Pool, and they were like, "Hey, let's just call this place Maiden Pool from now on." After
Don't
the
start
song.
that one. But no, I mean, he literally said it's the pool from which the town took its name, where legend said that he glimpsed Jonquil bathing with their sisters. What are you talking about?
You're right. I guess it's implied there. It doesn't specifically call it out, but you're right. And that's even the quote I read.
It's
you're right.
100% cool, though.
The pool from which the town took its name could be separate from the yes, it's also the pool where Florian and Jonquil. It doesn't necessarily like what if the town was around before that and it was called Maiden Pool.
I think Nelson's an idiot.
All right, moving on.
All right, so the big dilemma that they have, I guess kind of decision, which I don't know if the two people talking about it even have a choice, is if they should go straight kind of down the Duskendale road, or Cleos wants to take the maybe safer route all the way around the coast, which who knows if that means Crackclaw Peninsula or not, which seems like it's completely out of the way. But Jamie's just like, fuck it, like I'm not going that way. Like I'm going beeline. I'm going straight to B. If you guys have ever played Domination in Call of Duty, if you need to, you go straight to B. You need to win B.
That's a Jeff saying. Every time you load into a game of Call of Duty, he's always the first one.
If you're worried about kills, you're not going to win.
Jeff might not get kills. We might not even win the game, but we'll win the game. Jeff's a guaranteed to be first boots.
I'll be the first one to be for sure. But he more or less wants to just get back to civilization and more so Cersei.
Yes, that's what Jamie's thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he does think about Cersei quite a bit in this chapter. We get a little bit more about their childhood, right? Like they fooled around for quite some time.
Yeah, he thought a little bit back ago that he used to scrub her back in the pool.
Cuddling.
That he used to scrub her back when they were kids and like when they were bathing. But yeah, then here he goes into even before like they knew what sex was or had any sexual urges. They were just like doing what the animals did and like humping each other pretty much. I guess. And
enough that mom separated the rooms and
one of the maids saw them. The mom split them up, but then the mom died, giving birth to Tyrion pretty shortly after. Again, I think we've heard.
Well, and this goes into that whole "does Tywin know?" question, right? Like, so here's the first time where the mom said, "I'm going to keep it from him," which she did because she died.
I'll tell your dad if I catch you doing it again.
But yeah, exactly. So we don't know that he knows.
Yeah. I don't think. Again, I don't. Obviously, she might have told him. The other thing would be like, how were they like, I don't know, 6 years old, like playing animals and like not knowing a clue? Like,
I don't think this was the only time they got caught.
Well, I mean, it's the only time Jamie mentioned, so I don't know.
Well, it had to be the only time they got caught by their mom. Their mom died.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, this maid knows.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's a difference between 2 6-year-olds or 2 5-year-olds playing what they think, and then like the 2 29-year-olds actually having sex
and birthing children.
You could, like, if a maid saw this, she'd tell it to the mom. She's probably not telling everybody. Well, like, if you tell everybody, oh, the 2 6-year-olds.
I understand. Were playing, I'm just saying, like, this is the only experience we have knowledge of. There could be others.
Said, like, oh, sure, there could be, but they could have 2 heads too.
we got to go by what we know. Yeah. Okay. He mentions here that he can't even remember what his mom looks like, which is kind of sad. Again, because she died. Like, they were pretty young. I should go back in timeline and figure that out how old they were, but we'll do that next time.
There's got to be a painting of her somewhere in Castle Rock. I don't believe it.
Well, he hasn't been in Castle Rock for quite some time.
Yeah, that's true. And then next, Jamie starts thinking kind of crazy. He's like, "Thank God that Ned and Stannis told everybody about the incest. Now we can just like be married and be happy."
Who cares? It's a pretty wild section of just how his brain.
I mean,
is working.
So I hate to say it, but like, it is kind of true.
You mean it's true in the fact that if they did it, why not us? Just some other family did it, why not us?
Like when your big secret is out, right? Like it's like a weight off your chest. You can take a deep breath. The secret's really fucked up. But
it doesn't mean that you can lean into it though.
Well, this does because his goddamn family is in charge of the realm currently, so he can.
Yeah, and he says, okay, Robert won the throne not because he had any right, just because he had more swords. So fuck it, we can do whatever we want as long as we're strong enough to hold it.
Yeah, the problem is what's Tywin gonna say? Tywin's the one with the swords, so.
Well, and how many of your own men are gonna be like, wait, what?
That's.
How far is it to move to the Reach?
You're marrying your sister.
You know what I mean? Like other soldiers that are just like, what's going on?
I mean, but we're not so far removed. We're not even a generation removed from the Targaryens doing it. So
that's what his point
everybody here has been right, and that is Jamie's point.
And the other point is that makes it less, I guess, of a stretch is they do cousins. Like Tywin and his Jamie's mom is Tywin's cousin, first cousin.
Yeah.
Like
it's not even that far,
and no one cares about that. Like that's accepted for every family.
Just one, one generation away.
Too much close. I mean, it's closer, but it's not too much closer.
Yeah, I mean, if any Stark ends up marrying what would be a Karstark, like that's their blood. You know, exactly. Different houses, but they got the same. Eventually, they're blood related.
I mean, that's far enough back, though. Like, let's be real.
Well, for sure, at some point, but.
But when he's on this thought, well, first he thinks I'm gonna on it, like it's kind of in the same thought. We're gonna send Sansa back to Catelyn, so he's like just accepting that he's gonna accept this, and he thinks about that more specifically in a second. But he's like, yeah, then we can just wed Joffrey and Marcella to each other. Like we'll just keep it going.
We'll just keep it going.
Well, yeah, like you said, really lean into it. Like nobody's gonna fucking say anything if everybody's all married to each other. Like,
I mean,
it'll
it
be
would
normal.
be a
We're
lot
normalizing
weirder if the Targaryens weren't just doing this for the last 400 years or however long it is now. So
Yeah, for sure. If it was like out of the blue, like, hey,
there's a long lineage, long dynasty of
now,
them doing this. Like, it's almost kind of, I don't know, like, why were the Targaryens? Why was that? I guess because they're kings, right? Well, why couldn't the Lannisters do this on? Why
the Lannisters would be stupid not to, right? That's what you're trying to say, Joe?
I'm not saying. Why is it? Why is it so weird if the Lannisters were doing this on Castle Rock? Like, what if Tywin had the same idea and was like, "I want to keep my bloodline pure," and just what if he decided to do it? Like, why would that be so much frowned upon around Westeros when you have your ruler doing the same thing? Like,
to nerd out for a minute, at the point of writing this book, you're 100% right. But later, when Fire and Blood gets written, there is a point like where one of the older like one of the very first Targaryen kings, like actually creates a law that says like Targaryens, that family Targaryens, not having nothing to do with their seat of being kings, the family is just above everyone else. They're closer to gods than men. And that's why rules don't apply.
But Jaime does say that here too.
Yeah, exactly. And he kind of mentions
gods
that
like
here.
dragons.
But to that point, like the reason why, like I think it's literally a law, like in like the law books that like those Targaryens are an exception. But to your point, when George wrote this book, that who knows if that was ever a thought? You know what
like
I mean?
At this point,
that's
like,
a Fire and Blood thing, which came out.
We know
way
Dany
after.
wants to come back over. What if she comes back over and they're just like they just turn like, oh, you're a bastard. Like,
yeah, I don't think people are going to respect those laws. Like when Dany shows up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. We talked about him mentioning that he actually plans on honoring the Sansa deal. Kyle, what'd you think of that?
We didn't talk about that.
Well,
yeah,
Nelson mentioned it when we talk about it now. So
okay. Yeah, I mean, like he's just doing it for shits and gigs, right? Like that's the best.
More
part.
or less what I got from
He's
him.
like, people are gonna be so freaked out when I actually fucking come through. Like this is gonna be hilarious. That's pretty much what he's saying.
He says he knew it wouldn't win him back any honor. Like no one's gonna think any better of him for keeping this oath when he's done all these other bad things. But he does think it'll be funny. Yeah.
I do start to feel bad for Jaime a little bit. I mean, not about his character at all, but he doesn't get any benefit of the doubt. Like anytime it goes right back to you killed the king, which I understand. Like he killed the king. Like that's obviously not good.
Well, it's like, how do you trust that? Right? Like you've already gone way over the top, but how at the same time, and he has a point here. It's like, I also didn't see you cook somebody inside of their armor like the king did. So like I could kill him. I've seen him do some very awful things.
For sure.
I think it's funny because like, I think reading Jaime chapters is just like the polar opposite of reading Ned chapters in book 1, where Ned could like literally be pissing down somebody's back and tell them it's raining. I swear my oath. And they're like, Ned, yep, I believe him because Ned would never lie, right? Ned's like an honorable person. And then here Jaime could like be telling somebody the most truthful thing ever. I swear on my name, and like, yeah, your name's worth nothing, Kingslayer. Yeah. It's just like so opposite. Like anybody would take Ned's word for anything, and Jaime's word is worth nothing. And I think it's deserved. It's like,
I was going to say,
they both earn that position. Yeah.
Exactly. A reputation is earned.
All right. Well, let's just say this real quick. Ned has a bastard. Like he dishonored his wife by.
That's true. Like, you would think there's at least one little stain on his.
Maybe
record.
Again, like the men are in this time period are just running around whoring it up. So like, sure, there's gonna be a bastard
it's not that big of a deal.
around.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I know he's owning it publicly, but I'm still skeptical on that. But
what do you mean?
I feel like I've said that before. I don't think John was Ned's. I definitely have said that.
That might be the first time hearing it.
Really?
I have to dive back into the archives. Of
it's an interesting thought, though. Yeah. Let us know in the comments.
I feel like I've talked about it being his sister's.
We've been doing these for a while.
We definitely talked about this. Like, because I remember trying to connect Danny's streams and Ned's stream at the Red Door or something, and you guys explained that I was wrong, but it was definitely a thought that I had was that it was John is not.
Nels will have to dive into that one.
I do remember us talking about something with that because you were thinking that the house with the red door was the same like thing that
the tower
Ned was dreaming
whatever.
of. Yeah. And I said, we went back and read them and said not necessarily, but you did have some interesting thoughts there. I just don't remember what they were. So.
Yeah, well, that was one of them.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can. I mean, I'm sure it was. Ask somebody we can ask the listeners that have recently caught up.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Comment on the Discord what Kyle said about the dream.
So while that's interesting, it doesn't really negate the point we're talking about now because, like you said, Ned is openly accepting this as his. So as far as everyone like treating Ned to his word, you would be like, again, but to Jeff's point, is like having a bastard in this time the same as like not holding it would seem like different types of things.
It's not, yeah.
So all right, so as they're just kind of walking and talking, thump 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 thump, arrows are flying.
Barrage of arrows.
I think Jamie's experience shows here too. Like the sound.
Oh, instantly. Yeah, he knew immediately.
Hugging his horse.
He's yelling at everybody, get down.
He says
he
down.
Knew what happened.
And I can't tell based on the way it reads, is like, did Cleo just not understand what he meant? And Cleo's just tried to jump off his horse? And
no, I think he probably just like dodged, like, or like got scared, so he flinched, and like the horse probably started running, and then he might have like kicked him, and then
well, when they find his body later, he does have arrows in him.
Well, I'm sure after a while, I'm sure he got.
I was wondering why would they be shooting at his dragging body? Maybe he got the arrows, and that's why he fell from his horse. It's also possible. I don't think.
Sure. He might have caught an arrow for sure.
Oh, I think he definitely did.
Yeah.
If not, he probably caught it as the
I
horse.
thought he had the arrows in him, and then he said, but that's not what was killing him. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, his head is what killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also just a reminder, when the horses they're on are the horses that like they saw at the end of the Kneeling Man, and like the one had one eye, and like Bran's was a plow horse.
Yeah. Jamie had the worst horse, right?
Yeah. Cleos's was the best one. Yeah, I think his was like actually a knight's horse. Bran's was like a plow horse. Which I'm sure
is probably still the horse is probably still kicking.
Yeah, I think the brave companions might have taken it. So yeah, Jamie charges him right away, and there's like some funny quotes where he's like, "I hope she joins me."
Yeah. So. Well, he said he saw Cleo's lurch from his saddle. I think he got hit by arrows right there. Like he lurched. That's usually like
I took it as he was trying to jump from his saddle when Jamie said down.
Nah, you wouldn't.
I think that's like
just because Cleo says some dumb stuff. Like he said some dumb stuff like throughout here. Like when they're about to choose which path to go right after the inn, and Jamie and Brienne are both like, "Yeah, go this way." That guy was definitely feeding us bullshit. Cleo's like, "Wait, why would we not go that way?" Or like, "Why would we not sleep in this inn?" So I could just kind of take him as like an idiot. So when Jamie says down. I could see him just trying to jump from his horse, and that's what ends up killing him. But who knows? I think it's ambiguous.
Before you say that they charge, I think they do run for a bit, maybe not too far, but long enough for Jamie to look back and see that Brienne has actually taken 2 arrows already.
Yeah.
And she don't care.
She's probably wearing armor, though, or at least mail, right?
Well, I mean...
But they're in her.
It's in her. Yeah, I mean, they're sticking through the armor. Like, she's at least getting poked, if not anything.
For sure. Like they're definitely hitting her, but I think that keeps it from being fatal. It just makes it be painful, right?
Sure. It's like a flesh.
Exactly. Yeah. That's still awful.
I'm just saying, like, that shouldn't be like a death risk.
So anyway, they charge these archers, and Jamie runs in fucking full blast. Not afraid, but then he is kind of a little bit... He's like, oh wait, I really don't have a weapon. Like, hopefully she's following and getting the drift here, but she did.
Yeah. She starts shouting, "Evenfall, Tarth, Tarth, Tarth," and then they all run away. And what's weird is they like don't chase him down at all. They like the archers run to the woods and they just stop. Like the archers could just like start shooting again.
Well, it's not weird, right? So even Jamie is like, "What are you doing? Like you're supposed to go kill them now."
Yeah.
And like you said, the archers don't shoot back again.
Yeah. They full on ran because Jamie they're gonna run because they know what happens if they stop running.
I'm curious at how many archers there were. Like if there was only like 2 or 3, like okay. If this was like 10 archers, like you guys stink at your job.
Well, look at it this way, right? So Cleos got hit twice, Brienne got hit twice.
And that's like in 2 volleys probably.
And Jamie got missed a few times. Yeah. And his horse got hit. So there's at least 5.
Maybe they got slow. Well, they got slow reload. Then, like they should have been able. Like I don't know.
If you read it, you can kind of read when there's each volley. He says like then the next round came, and then I think there's only like 4 volleys.
Maybe they were only like 30 yards away, so like they were able to charge on them pretty quickly.
I think 5 to 10 is a fair number. But yeah, I'd agree with that too. He says they're riding by this wall, and then they're behind the walls where they pop up. So
yeah, so they're not too far.
But yeah, they have him and Brienne have that conversation. He says something like. You should let me tend to your wounds, the arrow wounds. And she's like, why would I let you do it? And he's like, who else? Cleos's head was plowing a field.
My cousin.
Yeah.
Dude, that was such a great line. Cleos's head is plowing the field.
Yeah. Well, his horse is using his head to plow a field. That's even better.
Yeah. Then he's like, we better go get him. He is a Lannister of sorts. So we knew this because they've been saying he's Jaime's cousin, and we might have talked about it back in Jaime 1. But Cleos is Frey and Lannister. Do we know anybody else who's Frey and Lannister? Or was Frey and Lannister?
Yeah, one of the kids that died last.
Who's Tion? Yeah, Tion Frey was Cleos's brother.
Okay.
So this family's taking a hit.
Aunt Genna.
Yep. And there's one point here where Jamie says, she's like, he was your cousin. He's like, I called dibs on his stuff. And she's like, he was your cousin. And he's like, don't worry. I got a bunch.
few.
Well, he just lost 2 in River Run. Lancel's pretty fucked up in King's Landing. Tyrek is missing, right? So like we literally know of 4 of his cousins who
he's missing a bunch. Yeah,
he does have more. We don't have to go through all Jamie's cousins, but I think it's just funny how like a lot of the characters who have had bad shit happen to him recently are actually all Jamie's cousins.
Well, I mean that makes sense, right? Like it's either Starks or Lannisters for the most part. So
or Baratheons, they've had a pretty wild.
Well, yeah, true.
Trip.
They're pretty wiped, I think.
All right, so they get back to Cleos, like you said. They found all this shit, and Jamie gets down. He's like, "All right, I'm taking the belt. I'm taking the sword." And Brienne's like, and he has like a decent point. He was like, "All right, I need to do watch too. Like, we need to protect ourselves."
And it's kind of what you said earlier, where like he said like our enemy. He was telling Cleos that like her enemies are not our enemies. But you said like they kind of are, and to that point, like they want the same goal. Him and Brienne both want the same thing. They both want Jamie to get back to King's Landing safely. So like
some of them, yeah.
Well, I feel like what he's saying here is he's like, just let me stand guard. Like I honestly would help you, and he's like, I was tired of her, blah 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 blah, and that's when he attacks her. But I think like he honestly would have just been like, yeah, like I'll help you stand guard. We want the same thing for the for the most part.
I don't know.
I guess
think
unless Gregor came up or like somebody like that.
I don't know. I think if Jamie could have like, all right, I think getting uncuffed is a big part of it for sure. But if he got uncuffed and had a sword, he's killing Brienne.
He says he'll swear an oath here, and this is one of the parts that you were saying.
He jokingly said that.
I don't think so, because he gets pissed when she says your oaths are worth nothing.
All right,
that's
fine.
like what he's getting mad.
Maybe he meant it.
I think he honestly meant like I won't hurt you.
Yeah. He's like you haven't done anything wrong to me or to the people. Like why would I betray you? Is pretty much what he's saying. He's like Ares gave me reason to betray him. Why would I betray you? This
is where the thing that you said you haven't cooked anyone in your armor. Yeah. And this is when she's like no, and he gets pissed off that she just doesn't trust him and he attacks.
Yep, he pulls it out. She blocks it right away, and then like I don't know, they fight for a while. Like I don't want to talk about every fucking swing that they.
No, it's a sick fight. Definitely like if you listen to the podcast and you don't read along, it's a cool fight.
I don't know which version you're reading, but in the box set it's like page 289, something like that.
It's a cool fight.
If you're not reading.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a cool fight. Like I said, it's just a long back and forth.
Yeah, we'll go through it like normal, but yeah, I don't have it.
I mean, I have little notes along the fight for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like he could never get the upper hand is really kind of what it came down to, and he was realizing like, okay, even though I'm chained up, like even if I wasn't, I feel like I think he's like understanding like
at some point
she's
good.
He
definitely.
Yeah.
The first thing that he realizes like, wow. To be fighting again, like I never felt so alive here. Like this is fucking great. I love the blood rushing and the chance to kill somebody or the chance to die. I guess like that's part of it too.
That razor's edge, right?
This is what I was made for. Yeah, and she's not attacking him. He kind of mentions that she's only defending and she just like blocking everything,
swatting everything away.
Yeah, she's just doing the Rocky 3 technique. It's just a classic Rocky 3 technique.
Just tire him out. Yeah,
rope a dope.
And he's like, not bad for a wench. And then they just go at it again. And then this is where he's like, I don't know how long went by. Like, there's a cool quote, like, time slept when swords woke or something.
They fight for some more. Then he says, not bad. Again.
And she's like, what, for a wench? And he's like, no, for a green squire. And again, this just feels like kind of out of a movie or like a...
That pissed her off, though.
Yeah, and that's when she starts to attack.
She's a knight. I'm attacking your ass now, bitch. Maybe she's not a knight. She's just a good fighter.
She's an almost knight, right? Like that's like her dream.
Knight. Yeah.
Well, he says, "Let me have this dance." He's like, "The music's still playing. Let me have this dance." And that's when she attacks him. You're right. It is on the edge of the fur wench thing too.
And then at some point, she cuts him.
Yep, because she started attacking. Pretty much right as she starts attacking, he gets cut.
She's just wearing him down. Like she ends up wearing him down. She's better. She's better at the Rocky. Well, the Rocky 3 technique has just worked. She's Rocky. He's Clubber.
Well, this is where he's making excuses too. He's making excuses. He's like, I mean, my chains,
he does have
some River Run for forever, which is
I mean, the River
excuses.
Run part does suck, right?
Yeah,
like,
both are valid.
A lot of them are valid. He's probably malnutritioned. He hasn't been practicing. He's what's it called when your muscles fade away? There's
atrophy.
He's definitely gone through atrophy of his body, and she's not. Like she's been training. She's a beast. So
and he realizes that she is stronger than him.
Well, and we knew she was good because she won that tournament, right? Like, I mean, like we know how good she is.
Yeah.
I thought this was cool. He goes through all the people that he thinks are stronger than him.
Yeah, and like I think Jamie's probably a pretty good like source on how good people are at fighting and their strength and stuff like that, because like Lord Commander of the Kingsguard.
I mean, he doesn't really comment on them fighting because he's like, I can still beat all these people, but they were at least stronger than me.
Yeah, so he goes Robert Baratheon, the White Bull, Gerald Hightower, who was the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard before for Aerys, Sir Arthur Dayne, who was in the Kingsguard for Aerys. Amongst the then he starts thinking about, because those three are dead. Then he starts thinking of people who are still alive: Greatjar and Umber, Strongboar of Craigcall, both Cleganes. He's like, the mountain is just completely on a different level. He's on a level all his own. But yeah, he's like, I could still beat them all by myself. But here, I should be the one wearing Brienne down. She's a woman, a huge caliber woman, sure, but I should be winning. Yeah. She forces him into a brook, and he slips. But as he goes down, he
stabs her in the
thigh. Little red flower plop out.
Blossomed. Why would you say plop out? Why would that be? Why would that be your choice?
Yeah, no, that's what George said. Plop out.
Plop out.
And then they start wrestling in the water, and she ends up getting the upper hand and just starts fucking like bathtubing him.
Oh yeah, she's like trying to drown him, and yield, and putting his head back under. Yeah.
Yep. And he's like, and break your oath like me. And she lets him go. And then the woods rang with laughter. And they are surrounded.
Bam, surrounded.
Just stop and talk about the general fight. Like, Brienne, like you said, like, we know she's good. She won, like, the tournament at Renly's camp. But Jaime's supposed to be, like, at least top 3 fighters in, like, Westeros.
Westeros history, probably.
Well, I'm saying, like, currently living, I don't know who else I would put up there, but
it's basically like the MJ LeBron argument. Who's the top dog?
Jaime's good as fuck, is my point. And even though he's in chains, and even though he's like fucked up, like Brienne,
all those reasons,
kicked his ass. Maybe. You know what I mean? Like, maybe not kicked his ass, but
yeah. And again, that's why I give credence to the excuses that he said earlier. Like, it's definitely true.
Well, he definitely is at a disadvantage, right? Like,
he's severely handicapped for this fight.
She still won.
But my point is, even like he's so good. Like, my point is, take LeBron, put him in a hospital bed and he's not allowed to move for 2 months, and then pull him out on the court.
He was there longer than 2 months.
He's still going to kick all of our ass in one-on-one.
I agree. Point. Yeah, that's fair.
You still have to be pretty good to beat LeBron.
Hold on, but that's us.
That's fair.
The point is, give him like. Do that to LeBron, and I bet you it was longer than 2 months, and he wasn't in the hospital like getting Jello pudding and his vitamins. You put him in somewhere chained up, where wasn't his ankles chained to his hands, like he was in a crouch
in the dark
forever. Yeah. And then you take, I don't know, Dylan Brooks is the hot name right now because he just sucked in the NBA playoffs, and everyone's making fun of him because he talked a bunch of shit to LeBron. And then you put an actual NBA player, which Brienne is good. LeBron's losing that. If he is atrophied and malnutrition,
his hands are shackled to his feet. That's fair.
His hands are shackled. How the fuck is he taking a jump shot?
Agreed. But that's my point. Is that like Brienne is at least like, to your point? Yes, Brienne is that level. She's the level of at least bad night, right? But no one treats her like that. Everyone treats her as like, oh, she's a woman. Like, whatever. She's literally worth nothing in a fight because she's a woman. And like, she is just now at least proved to Jaime. Like, I agree. She'd already proved to us from what we saw at River Run and stuff that she was at this level. But now Jaime's like, holy shit, this lady, like, it's like LeBron losing that game. And he's like, holy shit, this guy is like, it's almost like if some random off the street was tweeting shit like that at LeBron. And then LeBron loses that game, even after he was chained up. You know what I mean? Then he'd be like, okay, you know what? I wasn't in my best shape, but it's still impressive that you did what you did. You know what I mean? I feel like that's Jaime's stance right now.
He watched her jump off of a moving boat and push a rock through another moving boat.
Push the fucking boulder. Well, not a rock. That
through
was a
another moving boat and jump back on the first boat, and he wasn't impressed. This guy,
She already proved himself, is what you're saying? Yeah. Okay. Fair point.
Come on, man.
I don't know if he has both hands, if he can't. If he had freedom of both hands and just the reach, if he could have done better.
He might not ever have both hands again at the end of this chapter.
We're about to get there.
Get used to it.
Yeah. All right, so we realize we're surrounded by armored men.
Yep.
And Jamie starts talking jokingly, like, "Oh, sorry, you caught me with my wife."
I was chastising my wife.
Well, I think he was trying to play it off, right?
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know who buys this. Like Brienne's in
Yeah.
armor, he's in chains. Like,
Or would it have mattered? I mean, he doesn't know who's in charge, but
True.
he notices pretty quickly.
Yeah, in hindsight, knowing who it is, like, yeah,
He notices. The next note I have is he looks around and realizes they're the brave companion. So like, it didn't take him long to figure out.
I don't think he knows until they know who he is.
It's two
literally
sentences.
the next line.
So it's like, seemed to me she was the one doing the chastising. The
Oh, you're
man
right.
spoke with a thick, powerful nasal. Man who spoke was thick and powerful, and the nasal bar didn't conceal his lack of a nose. So immediately I was like, oh, it's fucking. I thought it was
boy.
Biter, but it's Rourke.
It's
I just
Rourke,
forgot who
yeah.
didn't have the nose.
He does mention.
I
he
forgot
does
too,
mention
to be
Biter.
honest.
I know, but I just forgot who didn't have the nose.
Yep.
And then
I love that.
So exactly, this is when he realizes, oh, these
He
aren't
looks
outlaws.
at there's Tyroshis and Lyseni and a Dothraki. He's like, all right, fuck, I know who these people are.
The scum of
Brienne
the earth.
immediately is like, I have 100 stags, take them and let us go. And they're like, all right, yeah, we'll take that.
We'll start
she
there.
says
That's
that
good.
100
That's
seconds,
good
that'll be a good
start,
start. Yeah. They're just like, yeah, we're gonna rape you. I'll have your cunt next. It can't
Rourke.
be as ugly as the rest of you. Yeah. Rourke, who said similar things to Arya before. He's just kind of foul mouthed.
Yeah.
Just foul.
Jamie's like, all right, who's in charge here? Let me talk. Enough of you, Roar. Give me who's in charge. And that's when Urswick steps out and immediately calls out who Jamie is, which, Urswick was probably around him a little bit. Like, if Jamie knows who these guys are, Urswick probably at some point saw and heard Jamie talk. So, like, if he could hear
Jamie's
Jamie,
pretty, like, the celebrity number 2, maybe, right? Like,
for sure. I mean, he's been
But
in
he
all
is
these,
shaved and
he's been in all these tournaments now. It's like, to be honest, like a shaved head.
yeah. That's what he says. And that's what Urswick says. It takes
Right,
more than a shaved
right.
head and a beard to fool me.
I mean, the beard would probably be. It's honestly not a bad start. The shaved head and the beard,
And being dirty, and you probably never see him like that before. He's in rags. Normally you see him in
but then
gold
he's
armor.
talking very well.
Yeah.
You know,
He's talking like Jamie. Exactly. Yeah.
and
well,
Jamie,
and he might have saw, and well, not might have. They definitely saw some of that fight, right? Like, you could see that this was probably good
a
fighters.
good fighter. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Just based on like what you just saw with, And then he basically thinks of this group as in the same group as the Mountains Men and Amory Lorch's men, which again, we kind of know the people that Tywin uses as mad dogs. That's what Jamie thinks too.
Speaking of, we kind of skipped over it, but like, how stupid was that fight? Like, right? Like, the whole time I'm like, you literally just got shot at with arrows like 2 seconds
Swords
ago. Like, why would they get into a fight?
Yeah, there's still archers around. He says these probably aren't the same people, but yeah, it's still,
I know, but
still
at the
just
same
stupid.
time, like, even before I knew that more people were going to find him, I'm like, what is going on here? Like, why is this happening immediately after a fucking archery ambush?
Yeah.
The next kind of theme of the chapter is Jamie just being like, "Yo, you know who my dad is. You're gonna get a lot of money if you turn me in." And we go back and forth with that with like 3 different people.
Well, real quick here is like there's a few. This is like the next paragraph or two right after what we were just talking about is when he doesn't quite realize what's going on. Jamie's like, okay, you know my dad will give you a good reward. She's worth a lot of money too, and he's just like being like kind of weird.
Where's the goat? Yeah, let's.
Jamie knows that something's up because like Ursula's like, oh, that's fortunate, and he's like, what are you saying? And he's like, where's Fargo? He's like, oh, he's away. So don't worry, we'll see you. He doesn't like the nickname the goat though, and he says Lord Vargo is prickly, and he's like, wait, Lord Vargo, what the?
How the hell did he get that title?
What the hell is he Lord of? And he's like Harrenhal, and again, he's like, why would my dad?
Is this the first we've heard of this?
No. Arya heard that Roose overheard. Roose
was leaving and
give it away.
Vargo was getting it. Yeah,
Roose gave. But it's from Roose.
Yeah. So here,
which is what they say here.
Which is what Jamie's confused on. Jamie says, "Wait, why would the fuck would my dad give Vargo Harrenhal?"
It doesn't come out. It comes out a little bit later.
He thinks it. He doesn't say it.
Well, that was so. Yeah, he thinks it, and then he's like, "Okay, well, can you
take the chains
me?
off?
Like,
take these off. I need my.
There's like,
he just laughs.
Sorry.
Urswick straight up laughs at it, and Jamie's like, he was worried, but he didn't let it show. Again, he's playing off like the calm, cool, collected, and he's like, "Did I say something funny?" And Rourke says that he's the funniest thing they've seen since Biter chewed off that Septon's tits, which is like, what the fuck is? I mean, they're literally sacking a sept later, right? When they find them, they're sacking a sept. So these guys are just going around like attacking churches, like they're fucked up.
Yeah. Anyway, it was awful. So he's like, yeah, your side kind of sucks too much. So we switched. We're on the other
lost too many
side.
battles. Yep.
Like they pay us, we win.
And Urzuk's like, yeah, what they meant to say is, yeah, we switched. We're straight up for Roos now. That's who we work for. And Jamie's like, and people say I have shit for honor.
Bam. Wrong word to say again. Now he's getting attacked.
Yep. Hold him up, punch him in the gut. And Brienne, this is where Brienne now is realizing they're in some deep shit.
Yeah, she's like, he's not to be harmed.
She gets beat up worse.
Lady Catelyn told me not to let him get hurt. Yeah. She's really leaning into her oath and that whole her mission thing.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you guys were on the same side. Like, I'm working for Cat, you're working for Rob. Like, we're cool. Just let me keep going. And they're like, nah.
Yeah, work with me. Let's take it. I mean, the next problem would have been like, yeah, work with me. We're on the same side. It'd be like, well, they probably would have been like, fuck you, you're a woman. Like, I don't trust you. And they would have been like, no, we're not taking her. She would have been like, Brienne would have been like, let's take him to King's Landing. We're like, fuck no, we're taking him back. Like, they would never have done that part of, even if they wanted to work with Brienne. Yeah. Like, they would be like, fuck you, we're taking him to Harrenhal.
Yeah. At least they aren't going, which is kind of what Urzuk says later. Like, I'm not going to go see Tywin. Like, he's probably not very happy with us.
Yeah, that comes up here next. So now they're tied back to back on the horse. And Jaime's thinking or tells her, like, it's your fault we got caught, which probably not her fault originally.
Brienne had to get beat to put on the horse, and she lost 2 teeth. This is what I'm going to add. So Brienne's literally getting uglier. She wasn't too good looking to begin with, and she's literally getting uglier as we go.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
I mean, hey, it's medieval times. You lose 2 teeth. There's no retainer that have 2 teeth. Like,
your
teeth are gone. Or you maybe get some wooden teeth, like someone who does that. Tywin up in the Night's Watch got wooden teeth. So, but that's the best you're doing. Yeah, not good.
I thought you were going George Washington, but
I'm sure Tywin's not the only one with wooden teeth.
George Washington.
And he's basically like, well, now you're going to get raped.
Yeah, like a lot.
If I were you, I wouldn't fight. Just let him do it. And Brienne's like, is that what you would do if you were me? And he was like, nah, I'd make him kill me. So it was just a quick thing. And then he immediately tries to go back to Urzwick.
Yep. Hey, Urzwick. And he's like, you better watch what you say during this conversation. I'm going to chastise you again. That's how Urzwick starts it off. And Jaime's like, you like gold, don't you?
Yeah, it has its uses.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And this is where we just mentioned it. Like, he's like, all right, come on. Like, you can take me back. Like, forget about the goat. Like, you take me to my dad. And
yeah, you'll get the whole pay.
I'll give you the pardon. Like, I promise you. Like, you'll get half the money, half the gold in Castle Rock. I'll pardon you. Daddy will be good.
Yep.
Meanwhile, he wants to kill him the whole time.
He also adds in here that Tarth is called the Sapphire Isle, which is where Brienne's from.
Yeah, you know what that means, right?
Sapphire.
Gems, baby. Yeah.
Brienne gives a little jerk at that, too.
Well, she's like, it doesn't mean gems. What are you talking about?
Well, Urzwick here, then he says, do you take me for a turncoat? And Jaime's like, certainly. What else?
Absolutely. You've already turned coat.
Yeah, you're here for the money. Like, let's be real.
Dude, it's such a great response. Like, yeah, of course. Like, certainly. Yeah, like, immediately.
I was surprised he didn't get chastised again. But yeah, he's like, he considers for a second, but then he's like, nah, he might not like us for selling Harrenhal to Roose Bolton. And he's like, he's cleverer than he looks. Jaime had planned to take him to King's Landing, give him his reward, and then hang him for turning his cloak on him. So he was going to do like the technically not lying, but get what he wants and hang the guy.
And Jaime just continues to talk, and then boom, he does get slapped. And the guy, again, it gets brought up, like, you can't trust the word of an oathbreaker. Like, it's the second time.
Well, I just will say, kind of to your point, when he's like, hey, Urzuk, we'll set you up. Don't even worry about Vargo. Because he's like, what about Vargo? And he's like, well, we shall sing him a verse of the Rains of Castamere.
Came back out.
Which, again, we've heard is just a song about people fucking with the Lannisters and getting fucked up in return. Yeah, and then, he gets slapped.
So then Brienne's like, why did you just tell him that Tarth is full of sapphires here?
I like this Urzwick quote he has here. He says, Jaime says he won't be so brave when father gets hold of him. He says, and how will we do that? Are your father's arms so long that they can reach over the walls of Harrenhal and pluck us out? I don't know. Just the mental image of that is just a funny one.
But Jaime basically says, yeah, he can if he needs to. He'll figure something
he's
out.
Like,
like,
brother,
don't fuck with my dad. Yeah.
You've met him, right? Like he's kind of in charge right now.
If you put Vargo versus my dad, who do you think's going to win that one? And that's when the slap actually comes. Yeah. And it's also funny. I think Jaime's like, the pain of his slap wasn't that bad. It was just the fact that like people aren't afraid of him. Like he doesn't have, no one respects him anymore.
Yeah, just openly disrespecting me. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't a hard slap. It was a disrespectful slap.
Exactly. And then he gallops off. He's like, I'm never gonna
Yeah,
believe
fuck this,
the word
yeah.
of an oath breaker like you. And he gallops off. And again, he's like, fuck. It always comes back to that.
Again, this is a guy who just had an allegiance to somebody, is now fighting for another person, and has the balls to say that like a turncloak is just as bad at, maybe depending on the oath again, but like that's a shitty person too who's passing judgment. These people are throwing rocks at, and it's just glass houses all around, and we're just fucking chucking rocks around.
It just matters who's in chains, is who you can talk shit to. Yeah, you can talk shit to whoever's in chains.
Yeah,
Definitely helps. Yeah.
So Brienne's like, are you a liar? Is everything you fucking say Kingslayer, like a lie, Kingslayer?
There's no
like
sapphires on Tarth. It's about
pretty
the water. He's like, look, you better shut the fuck up. I'm trying to help you here. You're gonna really get raped. You're gonna start getting raped right now if you don't shut the fuck up.
Which here again, Jaime's not the greatest guy, but this is just altruistic. There's no reason for him to do this for her, and he does.
You're
this
right.
For her,
you're right. He's definitely being nice to her.
And sure. I think part of it is because he respects her now after that fight.
He's gaining respect for her. Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, so they end up riding, and they come up on Hote in a sept that they had just ransacked. There's some more guys around, a big fat Dothraki guy. The Septon's hanging from a tree. They're now using him as target practice. Somebody must be pretty good. There's 2 through his eye. And Hote's funny because he just got that awful lisp.
Have we ever heard Hote talk before? Like, Arya's seen him for sure, but like we definitely haven't got this much like before.
Not this much for sure. And George,
it's frustrating to read a little bit.
George didn't do him any favors because he like silence.
Like, he throws in lots of them for sure.
What's the show where the guy like spits on pee all the time? Was That's So Raven? It was the teacher. It was like Mr.
Ned's survival guide.
You just spit. No, I'll Google it and I'll send it to you. You can put it in the Discord.
Kingslayer, you are my captive.
This is a sweet day.
Yeah, this is a silencer. This is a sweet day. Yeah, he's like the Looney Tune.
Sucker and Thuckatas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, basically when they get there, everyone sees him, and it's also, I think it's cool, just like the bloody mummers, they're just like from everywhere. You got like kind of like you said, Dothraki, Ibanese, Varga Hood himself from Qohor, right? You just got people from all over. One guy's a Dornishman, and when they ride up, they said there's people from a dozen different lands and half a dozen languages rang out when they ride up. They're just like, yeah, they're back type thing. Brienne's basically trying to be like, hey, thank God we're here, guys. We're on your side. Guess who I am? I'm the same thing that didn't work for her a few minutes ago. Or a few hours ago. She's trying again now. And yeah, Vargo's like, silence her, pull her down, start kicking her. Urzwic's like, don't beat her too bad. Don't break any bones. She's full
her
of weight.
Sapphires.
In sapphires, yeah.
Well, yeah, she's worth a lot of money, but that was Jaime's plan, right? Coming into shape here, right? To save her, at least.
Exactly, and it's working already.
Yeah. Don't break her bones, yeah.
Yeah, so they start pulling him down, and he's like, I could take a sword now and kill some of them, but I'm not ready to die quite yet, and definitely not for the likes of Brienne of Tarth.
Well, he's so full of himself, too. You say you trust him so much, but like the whole time he's like, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest. That's literally his internal monologue the entire chapter.
He's the best. He's the best fighter
Except
ever.
for the one time when he's actually like can't say that because he's getting his ass kicked. That's the only time when he's like, okay, fuck, I'm a little rusty. So
yeah.
You're
now
right.
He's back to it.
There's something to what you're saying.
He's like, well, I could kill 6 of these guys, but there's 7 of them, so like I can't do this plan. It's like Mitch Hedberg had a joke, and he's like, I went to the store to buy apples, and he's like, I bought 9, and they asked me if I wanted a bag, and he said, I juggle, and he said, but I can only juggle 10 apples. It's like, but it's 9, fuck it, bag them up. Like same thing, right? Like, or it's the other way. I did the other way for this, but
put it in the Discord.
And to your point, it's not the first time. Like Jaime, when they're getting chased on the boat, he's like, okay, well, there's probably 22 of them on the boat. There's 3 of us. I can take 13. Cleos can take 2. Brienne will take 5. Like, it's a toss up. We can probably do it. But like when he's doing those numbers in his head, he gives himself like an absurd number, like 8 plus.
Exactly. Yeah. Half of them are me. Yeah.
He can kill them all. I believe. And
at that point, he could barely stand up. Like they literally had to carry him to the boat because he was so weak and he couldn't.
That's all I'm saying. It's like he's so like
he's a little full of himself for sure.
I'm Jaime.
All right, so he's like, hey, come on. My dad will pay you. You can have half the gold in Castle Rock.
So Vargo has this this necklace, which is kind of what gets Jamie thinking about, oh, greed is the way to win this guy. The necklace is cool though, because it's all the coins where he's fought
for
because he's a sellsword and got money from, but they're like linked together like a maester's. Like that's what maesters wear.
Yeah.
Is that like a maester parallel?
I think I think it's just a cool. I don't think it truly shows greed. I think it's like, hey, I've been here, 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 here. Like I think it's kind of. I think
it's like I fought all these different places for money.
And that's what the maester's chain means too. It's like I've learned all these different things. I think it's kind of like a weird parallel to the maesters. I just don't know why or how. But
I mean, it's basically his job. I mean, it's just like.
Yeah, that's what he does. Go around
being he's a fighter. I don't know if he's a good fighter, but that's what he's doing. He's making money for it and making his living. So I don't know. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
But yeah, he's like, all right, this guy's all about greed. Like he'll take the money for sure.
My dad will pay you, and you know it. And he's like, oh yeah, half the gold in Castle Rock.
No. He's yes. Half the gold in Castle Rock I shall have, but first I must send him a message.
And then he says something in his goatish tongue, which I'm guessing is Kohoric or Kohorish because he's from Kohor. But Urswick understands what he says, and so does Shagwell. And they knock Jamie down, kind of like tabletop him. And the archers grab his chains, pull his arms out in front of him. And then a fat Dothraki starts swaggering up. They mean to scare me. The fool hopped on Jamie's back, giggling as the Dothraki swaggered towards him. The goat wants me to piss my breeches and beg his mercy, but he'll never have that pleasure. He was a Lannister of Casterly Rock, the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. No sellsword would make him scream. Sunlight ran silver along the edge of the Iraq as it came shivering down, almost too fast to see, and Jamie screamed.
Dun dun dun.
So you said the one time when he wasn't able to think at this chapter. I think there's 2 times this chapter where he thinks I might not be the greatest.
Yeah. The very last thought that goes through his head in this chapter, yeah. I just think that's really cool. No sellsword would make him scream. And he screamed. Yeah. I mean,
immediately.
He just never fully grasped his position, right? Like the whole time, even with Catelyn in the jail, like he thought he had the upper hand still, or at least was level ground. Like
no one can touch me because I'm a badass.
I think it too. It might be a lot badass, but I think a lot of it is the Lannister ego.
Exactly. Sure. It's just his birthright. Like this is mine. It's kind of what you were saying earlier about the Targaryens. I don't know if that was in the podcast or not, but what you were saying was that they're close to gods or whatever, so they feel like they're better than everybody else. And that's definitely that was definitely in the podcast. That was when we were talking about the Lannisters adopting the incestual.
I don't even know if it's all just being better too. It's just like our family has money and they'll pay. So like no one's ever going to kill me because they're just going to pay for me, and everyone's going to take that option to get rich.
It's the Brienne. The thing that he uses to say Brienne here with the sapphire is just way more. Like the Lannisters have so much money. It's like it's just not worth it. Like he could be your worst enemy. Mm-hmm. And it's still worth it to sell him back or sell him.
Yeah, it's a life-changing ransom.
To the Lannisters, he's worth money to Robb, right? He's worth money. He's worth a lot of money too. It's like the market. The market for Jamie is a lot of money. Yeah. So if you don't want him to go back to Lannisters, you better be offering up a lot. And I think Edmure did. He offered up like 10,000 golden dragons, which is a fuck ton of money.
It's a good chunk of change for sure. So Kyle, so you gave us your thoughts on what you think happens.
I don't really have another prediction. Other than that, they're pretty fucked, but at the same time, like I feel like what is happening here, right, is like kind of the situation, like the story is building the relationship between Jamie and Brienne, and I feel like they're gonna have to escape to some degree, or else like this relationship isn't gonna be able to grow. So, like in terms of using like the idea that it's a book as some guidance there, like
meta prediction.
Hopefully they can kind of like work together.
You're saying escape. Jamie and Brienne are interesting together, so they're gonna stay together in some aspect.
Hopefully, yeah, because I enjoy that part of this. I guess like it is getting better. I still don't like Jamie, obviously. Like, he's still very hard to read and to like respect, but like I'm learning to just hate him the whole time kind of thing. So
it's like how I read Kat.
Yeah, sure.
Except Kat is like
Kat's a better person than Jamie.
Kat has fucked up, yeah. But is a good person at heart. Jamie just like throwing kids out windows, fucking his sister, killing his king.
He hasn't been good from the start. You're right. Like I don't.
He's had a lot of ticks on his record. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just the Aries thing. Like that's the thing that everybody knows about. But yeah, we know some more about Jamie. Talk bring out a
exactly.
window.
And there's probably
he's got a
to Kyle's
history.
earlier point, there's probably a history that we don't even know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But all right.
All right, cool. Well, we'll see
All right.
Kyle in the next one for Aria 4, I think.
Maria.
And we'll see the rest of you guys in the spoiler section for Jamie 3. Bye-bye.
All right, later, nerds.
Like, subscribe, do all that stuff.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Bye, Kyle. Thanks for hanging
Bye,
out
Kyle.
with us. See you later. Now, on to the spoiler section of Jamie 3. Nels, what's your hot take?
I got a few.
I don't really have anything other than just the future of Jamie. Like, obviously,
So one of them I have is
his
like
hand's
a
cut
big
off.
future Jamie thing. Yeah, the hand cut off. Kyle's right. We didn't confirm, but I mean, I think as long as if you pay attention, it's pretty obvious. The archers pull
yeah.
the chain on his arms out.
Yep.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty obvious.
yeah. I said it. was
Maybe,
ambiguous,
I
don't
guess
know.
it could be an arm. It could be a foot. Like, I don't know. It could be something, but
Yeah.
he's able to see it. It's in front of him as he's like Superman'd out. Like, I imagine he's Superman'd out.
Superman
right?
on the
So-
ground. Yeah. I guess, well, since Kyle's gone, we'll talk about the show real quick. I think the way this kind of goes down is slightly different in the show. First off, there is no Vargo Hope. We get Locke, who's just a
Yeah.
Bolton guy.
I don't even know if I knew his name was Locke. I thought he was Vargo Hote in the show.
He's the
too.
same guy who ends up getting killed
Yeah.
by Hodor up north of Bran.
Yeah.
But he gives a little monologue. He's like sticking the knife in Jamie's eye, and he's like, anytime you get into problem, you think you can just say, "Oh, my daddy." Well, your daddy ain't here. This'll help you remember. And he cuts his hand. Like, there's like a little monologue. It's not like this. I think they're both really great. I think it's a good adaptation because again, it's one of those things where it's so good, but it's a Jamie thought where it's like, I'll never scream for this guy. It wouldn't work if Jamie's just like really confident and then all of a sudden screaming. I mean, that happens too, but the monologue helps.
Like, does he even scream in the show, or like does it just get chopped off and like he doesn't even know what the fuck happened?
He
Like,
screams and then it hard cuts to the credits and it's like the hard metal rock version of the bear in the Maiden Fair. You know what I mean? It's like really jarring credit music, like super loud. A bear there was, a bear, a bear.
I'd have to go back and watch the scene.
I've seen that show too. It's embarrassing every time.
Yeah,
Seen
no, I
these shows.
think it's one of those moments in the show, which I believe at this point I was still I think I watched the show up to season 8 well before I even read the first book. So I think like this was one of the huge like what the fuck moments for me. Like I don't think I had any clue
Yeah,
that shit would happen.
in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So I do have a question. Maybe you have an answer. Like, what's the message here?
Why?
So they're gonna cut the hand off and send it back to Tywin.
this is a great question. And I was wondering it too, like, why actually is he doing this? Because the show excuse is Locke is just like,
Fuck
I don't
you,
like
I
that
don't
you
care.
think you can save
Yeah.
my daddy for everything, and he cuts his hand off without really any reason.
So the message. Go ahead. You said how smart I am of asking this question.
It's a really good question because I was thinking the exact same thing. So I looked it up. I remember that Roose talks about this a little bit to Jamie when they meet. And it's actually in Jamie 5. I found it. And I'll just read a little quote. This is from Jamie 5, so we'll get there. I think it's in like 15 chapters. You have no pity for a wretched doomed goat. Ah, but the gods must. Why else deliver you into his hands? Bolton chewed another chunk of meat. Carhold is smaller and meaner than Harrenhal, but it lies well beyond the reach of the lion's claws. Once wed to Alice Karstark, Hote might be a lord in truth. If he could collect some gold from your father, so much the better. But he would have delivered you to Rickard Karstark no matter how much Lord Tywin paid. His price would be the maid and safe refuge. So Vargo's plan here is, I have Jamie. This is great. Now I can get Carhold.
Yeah. That message had gotten out to the goat by then.
Yeah. But earlier in this conversation, I kind of skipped over. I'm reading the important part here. But earlier, Roose has explained that Vargo was basically betting everything that Tywin would lose that Stannis would win at the Blackwater.
Yeah.
Right. He sold out Tywin, and then he was hoping that Tywin would lose.
Right.
Roose basically says the day that Stannis lost, Vargo lost, and he knew that he would never hold Harrenhal even if I gave it to him.
Yeah.
Because Tywin just wouldn't let it stand.
Right. He would just
So-
march on him.
So basically, he's like, this first part that I just read is saying he's betting all his chips now on, now that he has you,
Giving
he's like,
you to
perfect, this is
Karstark.
my out. Now, yeah, you are my out. Now I can be safe because I can actually be a lord in Carhold.
That's a wild.
So hold on, that's not why he cuts off. That doesn't explain why he cuts off the hand, right?
Well, that doesn't really explain because there's an heir. He's not really Lord of. There's
not. Roose also explains that he sent Harrion Karstark. When I reread this chapter, I figured this out. We were talking about this recently. Harrion, who we talked about in the last chapter, is the last Karstark son. Who is that? He sent him off with the Glovers to Duskendale, so he's dead. We don't know if he's dead or not, but he got killed by Tarly's men. Pretty much in the setup where he sent all his men. We don't know if it was a setup, but it makes sense that he basically sent a bunch of people to die and then told Tywin where they were going so that he could ambush them. Yeah. With Tarly. Harrion was one of them. So Roose is counting him as dead.
Okay. So now there is an open.
Exactly. You would become Lord. Exactly.
All right. So that doesn't explain the message. I agree.
That explains like what Vargo's up to. But to sell you, he must keep you, and the riverlands are full of those who would gladly steal you away. Glover and Tallheart were broken at Duskendale, but remnants of their host are still abroad, with the mountains slaughtering the stragglers. 1,000 Karstarks prowl the land south and east of Riverrun, hunting you. Elsewhere are Derry men left lordless and lawless, packs of four-footed wolves, and the Lightning Lord's outlaw bands. Dondarrion would gladly hang you and the goat together from the same tree. The Lord of the Dreadforts sopped up some blood with a blah, blah, blah. Harrenhal is the only place Lord Vargo could hope to hold you safe. But here his brave companions are outnumbered by my own men, and by Sir Aenys and his frays. No doubt he feared I might return you to Sir Edmure at Riverrun, or worse, send you on to your father. By maiming you, he meant to remove your sword as a threat, gain himself a grisly token to send to your father, and diminish your value to me. For he is my man, as I am King Rob's man. Thus his crime is mine, or may seem so in your father's eyes, and therein lies my small difficulty. So this is basically where it's like, you better tell Tywin I had nothing to do with this shit, because that's why he cut your hand off. He cut your hand off so I couldn't send you back.
Yeah.
He wants to hold on to you. He thinks that now that you don't have a hand, I can't send you back to Tywin, or else it'll look like I cut off your hand.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
Because Vargo probably doesn't know that Roose switched sides. So he's probably thinking he's not going to do that anyway. He's probably more afraid he's going to send him back to Rob. Right. But again, it looks like it doesn't look good.
Vargo's trying to play chess amongst checkers.
He's trying to make Jaime less valuable to Roose so that Vargo can actually be the one in charge. Because what happens here is Vargo shows up and Roose just immediately takes him away. Roose is exactly what Vargo feared. He's like, okay, I'm in charge of Jaime now. Mm-hmm. Vargo, I think, was hoping that by cutting off his hand, if Roose does that, it makes it harder for Roose to do things with Jaime.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't really, because he's already turned his cloak, so he can kind of work this out with Jaime. But yeah,
interesting.
But yeah, that's why, and I think it's a good question because I thought the same thing, and it's interesting that Roose kind of spells it out, at least what he thinks for it later.
Yeah. All right, so I guess the one note that other than the future of Jaime, actually from the chapter, and it's not really a spoiler because he ends up going, and it doesn't happen. I don't think. Like I don't even think he never gets a chance to, but it's the Sansa of it all. Like, would he have actually returned her, and was he actually doing it for like? Is he like lying to himself a little bit? Like, oh, I'm just doing it to like.
He wants to be a good knight, right? Like he said, he said. There's a quote. I don't know if he said it already or I think he'll say it coming up. But he says like, I always wanted to be the sword of the morning, but somewhere along the line,
it was his last chapter.
Last time, I became the smiling knight. Like he wanted to be a good guy. It just things happened, and he was in positions that now gave him this bad reputation. But I think he still is a good guy at heart. I mean, we joke around like he did push Bran from a
yeah. I mean, he's not a good guy. He's a dark gray with maybe some like light gray swirls in him, but
he's an anti-hero. He's like Han Solo or Deadpool.
Batman. Yeah, I mean Han Solo is a criminal that you fall in love with because the princess falls in love with him.
Yeah. First off, Brienne the Lunk. Brienne is definitely a Duncan the Tall descendant. Okay. Later, she gets the shield. She gets called Brienne the Lunk, I think, in Jaime 5, just because I just read that.
I'm not gonna fight you on that. I could see some truth.
Do you remember how the second Dunk book ends? Like the sworn sword.
He loves the red-haired woman.
Yeah, they want the.
Does he sleep with her?
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. Maybe no. She kisses him. Yeah, she kisses him and gives it, and he takes her braid, cuts off his braid. I think she kisses him. She might not kiss him. He at least takes her braid.
But it's basically it's a border war from a little tower and
they want the stream. It's about the stream.
Yeah.
who owns the water. She's like damming the water and taking it for her moat, and now none of the land. But at the end, it turns up that like basically 1v1 is how we're gonna settle this. There was a fire. No one knows who lit the fire.
They fought in the water.
Exactly, which is where, and they both lose their shit. I think they both fall off the horses, and Dunk just wins by punching and drowning this guy in the stream. I think
Dunk's
I don't know
the worst knight ever.
Well, Dunk wins the fight the exact same way Brienne wins this fight.
I mean,
okay. They lost their swords. It's down to
what else?
This is a Dunk.
Dude,
this is a Dunk fight.
This is a scene that is in like every fighting movie ever. That you end up in the water and
disagree.
You lose your dude. It's literally in Hercules. Hercules the cartoon. He loses his sword and has to beat the guy up, and then.
In these books, you won't see like Jon Snow lose his sword and win a fight with the fisticuffs.
He's in a frozen tundra.
Dunk literally wins a fight like that in every one of his books. That's how every single Dunk in the Tournament of the Seven, he loses his sword and he's just smashing Arian's head in the mud. He's like, yield, yield, yield. That's how he wins the second one with Long Edge.
I wasn't fighting you.
You are fighting me. You're wrong.
I can agree with you that she could be a descendant of Dunk, but the fact that you're fighting so hard for this water fight as proof is...
Let him know in the comments, boys. Everyone in the comments, let Jeff know how wrong he is, and this has to be a parallel to the Dunk water fight. I haven't read that in a while, but I'm staying on that. I think it's very close. Next one, when Jaime leaves when they leave all the burned areas, he thinks like, "Oh, thank God we're out of there. We're back into Greenlands." That area is reminding me of Ares, which again we didn't mention this in the non-spoiler, but it is just like a little hint like. Fuck, Ares wanted to burn everything. Like he wanted this to be King's Landing, just burn fields and nothing around like that.
Which is stupid. I mean, that's just we know how stupid that is.
Well, again, it's one of those things that Kyle just doesn't know yet. Like we know he burned people in his armor, but again, like killing your king because he burned people in his armor is different than killing your king because he was going to blow up the entire city. Very different things. I almost
spoiled this while talking about Jaime. I think there was a time where I was like, oh, I feel a little bit bad for him. People keep like just. Anything he says, it's like, well, you're an Oathbreaker, can't trust you. When we know, I was going to say, like, when we know he was trying to save the world, but Kyle doesn't know that. So
yeah, exactly. He'll learn that in Jaime 5 too. Before that Roose conversation is him and Brienne in the bath.
Him in the tub.
Yeah.
So I almost spoiled that, which would have been bad.
Yeah, but that's coming up. So, and again, I think that's when you kind of understand where Jaime's coming from a lot. It opened your eyes a lot to like, okay, he's not that. He is a really.
I'm thankful that he mentioned that people were melting in his armor, because like, all right, Ares was doing bad shit. Like you could at least say like a bad person killed a worser person.
Yeah, there was a lot of kings in history that commanded some bad shit to be done, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they have like bad policies. They could just be a huge cruel on a power trip against like a personal
wanting
enemy.
to blow up everything and burn everything.
That's a different story. Yeah. Next thing, when they go to Maidenpool. They mentioned that there's still the flag flying over the castle, but like the town is fucked up. There's no one on the walls and the
dead
gates
bodies
destroyed.
Rotting in the pool.
Brienne comes back here in Feast for Crows in one of her chapters. Randall Tarley is in charge of this town. This is like kind of where she gets some intel before she heads out looking for Sansa. And at that point, she learns that the Lord William Mooton, pretty much what happened when everything started going to shit, is he just held up in his castle and he sent all his fighting men just like out to the war, and he just like let anybody come in and fuck up his town. He's like, fuck it, let it burn. I'm just gonna chill in the castle.
Wow.
And then like a huge horrible lord.
Did he end up dying?
No, I think he's still just chilling up there. Like when Arya gets there,
he's just getting sieged.
I don't even know if he's. Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess he is getting sieged. Yeah, you're right. I guess if Randall Tarley's there, they're not on the same team. Yeah, he must have got his head snipped or Randall fucked him up, but but yeah, he's probably in
Moon was
tower
there,
or maybe he might have switched sides. Maybe he swore loyalty to Randall and Randall just like hanging out to make sure that he does, because I think for some reason he is alive in Feast of Crows. But
interesting.
Yeah, last thing I have is there's like some sexual imagery in this fight. No, you didn't get that at all.
Are you talking about like who's on top?
I mean, just a bunch. Like again, we say the sword is the penis parallel. It starts off with
swinging her
give
penis.
Me the sword. Jaime says, "Oh, I will." The swords kissed and sprang apart and kissed again. Fast, moving into her, step side to side, stripe faster until breathless. The dance went on. He pinned her against an oak. The woman started grunting like a sow. Come on, my sweetling. The music's still playing. Might I have this dance? Also, I mentioned this.
All right. I mean, the way you read it right there, like, yeah, absolutely.
I had a bunch of specific
If
lines
you-
highlighted
if you
throughout the
preface
quote. That's
it
not
with-
hold on, for anyone listening, that wasn't a lot of that wasn't like straight
I
after each
know
other.
that
Those were
wasn't
just
word
different.
for word.
Just
But if you
for anyone
preface it
listening.
with sword is penis, absolutely.
Also, we were kind of talking about this a little bit in the non-spoiler section. When he says like, "Oh, not bad," and she's like, "For a wench," and he's like, "For a squire, a green one," that's when she attacks him. We said that in the non-spoiler. But I said, hang on. First, he says, "The music's so plain. Might I have this dance?" And then that's when she attacks him. Again, it's all at the same time. But
So you're saying she wants to dance with him?
do you remember like her and Renly's background? Like why she likes Renly so much?
Because he treated her like a knight.
So all the there was like a ball going on, like a feast or a tournament.
Back in the day at Tarth.
Back in the day.
And he danced with her. Yeah.
Well, there was a tournament that all the knights were having. Whoever could take her maidenhead would get like 100 gold dragons. Like there was a bet. Everyone who bet had to.
So everyone
you had to
was
buy
treating
in.
her super nice.
Exactly. And then someone like let her in on the joke, and like everyone made a big, or someone was trying to someone was afraid that she was going to get raped. Someone had heard about it and was like, "I'm afraid that she's just going to get raped eventually because the pot's getting so high."
Mm-hmm.
So they told her, and then everyone made a big joke of it, and like that night, like no one danced with her, but then Renly danced with her, and then she's like, "That's why I like Renly." And again, I don't know if this is in the book. I think it has to be, but there's a part in the show where she tells Podrick.
That sounds like a bathtub.
There's a part in the show where Podrick says, like, she tells Podrick the story, and Podrick says, like, Lord Renly was like about to say like he was gay, and she's like, "I know he was gay. Like I wasn't like in love with him. He was just kind to me. Like he was the only person who was ever even just nice to me."
I think she loves him here.
But again, I think that dance is like a big thing for her, and I think it's interesting that she gets mad when he's like, "Come on, my lady, might I have this dance?" You know what I mean?
Do we know if she says that in the book?
Hold on, let me finish my sex lines because there's more. Grunting, she came at him. Then when he dives at her with the sword, it bit into her upper thigh, her red flower blossomed, and Jaime had an instant to savor the sight of her blood before his knee slammed into the rock.
So I will admit that the red blossoming of the upper thigh was definitely like, oh, she got her period, or she break her maidenhead type
it's Jaime's
thing.
sword that's doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
So are you saying
penis.
this to say that at one point you think they're going to get together?
I don't know. I just think there's some intentional. Again, it's one of those things where even if you don't buy into that all of those lines I just said were intentional, there's a lot of like semi-sexual, could be taken two ways type lines here. I'm not even done until finally she was astride him, her clothing, and then it ends with her clothing askew, her face red. She looks as if they caught us fucking instead of fighting. Like he kind of calls it out at the end. I think it's a definite on purpose thing by George. And to your point, what does it mean? Like, does it mean that they will end up together?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Can you give
it's
me
also sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing I was gonna say, it's also interesting that along these lines, Brienne is getting uglier. Like I kind of mentioned it, she loses 2 teeth here. She gets uglier and uglier. She just keeps getting in fights, and like her face gets like Biter eats half of her face is where we're at the end. Like not good. Also, I heard
at the end of that's what I was gonna ask. Like just going back, Brienne is with Kat or Stoneheart.
Yeah.
But when does she get her face bit off? Here? Like
pretty much right before that. She goes to an inn. There's a bunch of like orphan girls in Gendry. Mm-hmm. And I think that they're with the Brotherhood Without Banners. But at the time, it's just a bunch of orphan girls in Gendry. But then Rourke rides up. And it's like one of these quotes that like is kind of a famous quote. And it's one of the ones that's actually been kind of popular on Reddit recently. Like memes have been being made about it. 7 ride up and Brienne's like 1 against 7. She had no chance and no choice. It's kind of like her last thoughts before she then she goes and fucking fights them all and wins, and Biter eats her face off. But at the end of that, when Biter beats her face up, she doesn't actually fight all of them. I think she fights Rourke and then she fights Biter, and then the other 5 get taken out because the Brotherhood Without Banners show up just in time, like right as she kills Biter. Gotcha. Then she gets captured by them. And then there's like 2 more Brienne chapters.
And it's like, go kill Jaime. So then give me where Jaime's at the end of his story.
I think he's at River Run, basically talking with Sibel.
Right.
Finally meeting with Sibel. We kind of talked about that recently, seeing the hips thing, right? Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of where they're at. And I think actually the last Jaime chapter we have is somebody comes up to Jaime and says, "Hey, Jaime, we have word that Brienne wants you.
Oh, wow.
It's about the Hound, but you have to come alone." I think that's what it is. Don't quote me on that. It's definitely something like that where
and that's not
he's
in
getting
the Winds
word
of Winners,
that
that's in the actual.
Exactly. I think that's in the actual book. Yeah. And it's like that doesn't make sense to us because as readers, the last we saw,
We haven't
Brienne's
even
like
heard
being
of Brienne
hung.
yet. Yeah.
Well, she's being hung. And they're like, you either say a word, you say sword. Yeah. It's either like, we're going to hang you or you say sword. And if you say sword, that means you're going to go kill Jaime. And she's basically like, I'm not going to go kill Jaime. She's thinking to herself, like, I'm not going to go kill Jaime.
Sword.
Like, but then it's like, and then Brienne said a word is how it ends.
Because
she's looking at Podrick. She's looking at Podrick. She's like, I'm not going to let Podrick hang for this. Is kind of how her thought goes out.
They're in the same book? It's not like we had Jaime's side and then a whole book later. You know what I mean? That's what I was saying about like if Jaime was.
I think the way it is Jaime and Brienne are both in Feast of Crows, but the way Dance goes is there's only some people in Dance, but the second half of Dance, you do get a few people from Feast coming back. Like Cersei, I think, is in Feast, and she comes back in the second half of Dance.
Yeah.
Right? So they do start to tie things up. I think Jaime gets 2 chapters at the end of Dance. So he's not in most of it, but I think he does get 2 at the end.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been the thing. Like, if Jaime would have just been like, hey, Brienne needs you. She's talking about the Hound, but you don't know Brienne's storyline yet that she's actually.
I think by that point we do, but I think at that point we do, but we don't know like there's a 50% chance she's getting hanged. Last we know is kind of where it is.
Gotcha.
Let me see. Anything else?
I mean, the only other thing that happened was Kyle calling out Jon not being Ned's bastard.
He has never said anything about that before, right? But he's kind of on the money. He even said like he could be his sisters.
I just don't remember if when we had the Tower of Joy, Tower of Joy.
Yeah,
Tower of Joy dream. If when she was bloody, if he said it was birth blood, like that kind of rings a bell that he might have said like it wasn't a stab wound, like she died. He might have said that.
I don't even remember what chapter we would be talking about that in. To go back and look, because I feel like we had that conversation recently, like way after Ned was dead. It
would have to be Ned's like fever dream.
I'm thinking it would have to be a Dany chapter with the Red Door.
Maybe.
Because those are probably more recent than Ned. Ned's way back in Game of Thrones, but yep,
we're
going kind of long.
Yeah, we're just rambling right now, so
yeah,
cut
it here. Good chapter. Next one, Arya. I think she's just wandering. Probably goes to meet Beric. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't read it yet.
Arya.
We'll see you guys in that one.
Bye.
Bye. Like, subscribe.